Um, so I've been thinking a lot lately about cognitive dissonance, and I think sometimes when I'm confronted with or like encounter in any way the atrocities human beings are capable of, I think I have an instinct to always look for it in myself. Like, you could only understand another person as well as you're willing to understand yourself, right? And perhaps because I believe humanity's baseline is good, innately. Give me the most hateful person in the world. I always thought about this being in New York. Like, if somebody was standing near the tracks of the subway and, like, for whatever reason, like, fell, like, I think it's a natural human instinct, no matter what type of person you are. I remember it was at a time when, like, ISIS was really active in the world. I was like, if you're, like, an ISIS member that's, like a plant here in the United States, you know, getting ready for something nefarious, that if they were, like, I think their instinct would be, like, to do that, like, to go and help. Like, if someone fell and dropped their shit, like, I think that, anyway, like, my point is that I think human nature, unaffected by life or forces I'm coming to have to begin to confront and accept that could be, like, evil forces outside of human nature, can affect them. Anyway, so in being confronted with all of this, I tried to think about, where is the hypocrisy within me, within all of us? The cognitive dissonance, right? What atrocities, because we were made aware of them, and we accepted are going on in the world, but we just kind of separate ourselves from. For instance, like, we hear all the time about, like, child labor and the horrendous working conditions. And, we hear that as, like, an idea, a concept, but we kind of, we separate ourselves from it. Or I remember the other day when I was processing all this, I thought about, I came to, if even sort of, like, surface level or briefly, became aware about the idea of, like, child soldiers in, like, I think it's like the Sudan or just some countries in Africa, where they make the children, they murder their parents in front of them, or they make the children murder their parents, and then they're orphaned and they're taken into, that military or resistance force, whatever it is, and, like, they're indoctrinated into it, and they're made to become these, like, human machine guns, or whatever, which is a horrendous and horrific thing to really think about. Like, when I'm confronted with, like, the sex trafficking and harvesting and murdering babies, like, my brain exploded and is exploding, and it breaks my mind. And then I think about the fact that I came to know that exists in the world, and I was able to put it somewhere inside of myself. And I really, like, I found remarkable the ability to do that, like, in the face of this, because, like, I kept being like, there's nothing worse than this. This is paradigm shifting. And, like, what was going on in Gaza, like, there is so much horrific stuff that occurs in the world. And again, this is, I think almost any human being could say, like, this is the worst of the worst. Like, fucking with children and babies, and in this it's inconceivable way that I think everyone would be like, it's at least in the top 5 worst things that are happening or have happened in the history of humanity or in the world, but that other things do. Anyway, I think about the cognitive dissonance that one has to sort of employ in order to exist in the world. So I say that because as I'm really starting to hear about, like, you know, the insidious and seemingly like broad nature of like the amount of people, and like especially people like in the public eye, right? And whether that be celebrity of like, you know, actor, musician, you know, public figure of any kind, politician, I wonder, you know, a big part of this has been the blackmail aspect. And again, you know, one could say like, well, why are you fucking with kids or in a situation like that you can be blackmailed? And I mean, that's a decent argument. Or like that your career or public image matters less than doing the right thing and being a part of being a whistleblower and ending this horrific thing that's happening. So maybe I'm like disproving the point I was here to explore. But anyway, like I wonder about the capacity for one to employ cognitive dissonance in sort of like a kind of knowing what's going on, like that not all of them have to be you know, necessarily like kind of like there's levels to this that are not maybe like full-on satanic worshipers and are the ones that are killing the babies, and like of course they're complicit by nature, but like I just wonder about human beings' ability to create a certain amount of distance between themselves and something that they might not fuck with, they might not agree with. And I mean, you know, which is an interesting aspect or point, but even as I'm saying it, it's like some part of you is compromised because you're being lobbed up like a softball. Like it's not just like any sort of like, is this like morally reprehensible or is this kind of not cool? It's like, dude, you couldn't be given anything more clear. Like they're fucking with children and trafficking and babies and human stuff. Like it is as fucked as it gets. And yeah, I mean, I think I always try to understand the deplorable, you know, like, cause like, you know, you think of these people and you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but it's like, if you're willing to be complicit in something to save your public image or because you want to move up further in your career to realize your dreams, like you are you are morally corrupt. You're and it's fucked because, you know, a lot of people will talk about like, you know, the people of Germany, you know, in the 30s and 40s, and that it was really like, it showed what human beings are capable of, like that they weren't all hateful Nazis before, but the fact that they were able to become that is like psychologically chilling. Like Lex Friedman, the homie, often talks about that. Like he'll say like he's worried that like that he might be a good soldier, like that if he was in that, like and I think that mining inside of yourself to be like, where does that exist in me? Because like maybe because this is done in like groups that people are able to be complicit and like do some sort of mental gymnastics to accept things that are like obviously reprehensible, but because it's part of like a system that it makes them more comfortable. Like similarly as maybe we can do like with like things that we know are not ethically made, and like what does that actually mean, but like that we're all, or like factory farming, that like because everyone else in whatever like group you're identifying with, everyone else is participating in it, you can participate in something that is inconceivable, which like, I mean, factory farming is pretty fucked. Like if you were really to look into it, like it's nuts that we're all just, generally everyone's like, we're all gonna turn a blind eye, or like, and again, I'm not trying to equate that to like the level of depravity that we're talking about with what was going on here. Like that's not lost on me, but I think I'm just trying to understand because it's mind-boggling how many people it is, and I don't think all of them are like devils in sheep's clothing. Like, so it then makes me think about the gradations and like where do those, the fact that that's possible for humans, like it's almost like the most, it reminds me of like the information that we got to gather from, you know, the Holocaust and what the German people were able to collectively do. That was so informative for everyone to learn about, like what humanity is capable of, that the way that we can be indoctrinated into something and follow suit because those around us are doing it. Similarly, maybe that is something that we get to mine from this, of like, wow, like human beings are capable of, whether it's the cognitive dissonance or the normalizing of what is the fundamental worst thing that a living being, a human being can do, which is like fuck with children on like a fundamental, every conceivable, like horrific way. It's wild that how many people can get mixed up in that. And I guess the only thing I could get from is that I have to imagine that, or at least a major contributing factor, if not like the one, is like because it's sort of pseudo-normalized, because it's such a like rampant, like once they're kind of introduced to it, it's like, oh wait, everybody who's successful and a person of like high esteem in the world is somehow related to this, that you then are able to do this. Similarly, like as we all use our iPhones, or factory farming, that we, the fucking clothes we wear, that like the things that we're able to you know, hoard wealth when there are people like living, dying in the world that are in such need, that I guess it's like, where does the hypocrisy lie? Like, what can we learn about ourselves? Where are we complicit? Where, like, because it's normalized amongst a people that we don't really check ourselves perhaps enough. Like, how could anybody have an exorbitant amount of wealth when there is so much need in the world? But because it's normalized, like everyone's like, I don't say anything if you won't say anything, or like whether or not they're even thinking about it consciously or not, or you just kind of naturally, like the same way that we become sort of like desensitized to homeless people like on the street, or people that are begging. That I remember like living in New York, it was a weird thing that you almost had to build up, of like, you like, in order to move through that space, or at least for myself, maybe people who are really like empathetic, that like you have to not like other it, but you need to be able to shut it off because it's too much. And like the ability, when you think about it, for a human being to walk past another that is so obviously in need of some version of support, you existing in the world, we are all sort of equipped with the capacity to do that, like whether it's like dissociate, but like to exist in a way that's inherently complicit with the suffering of others. And while I cannot understand or conceive of how even like one person, let alone a fucking bunch, like great many, could ever fucking gymnastics their mind enough to like make peace with or like live with what is going on with children. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? And I can't understand it. The fact that it is occurring is then, once I move from my emotional reaction, is like, there's something valuable for us to better understand about ourselves as human beings, that's possible. And where do we engage in our own version of that within our lives? Because to exist in the world as within the construct as we have known it, like in this current time-space reality, like 2026, like all of our lifetimes, to live is to what feels like have to ignore the suffering and atrocity experienced by our fellow human beings at all times. And I don't know that has to be, it's inherent in the human experience. It is within the social sort of stage humanity is at right now. Like, it is the way to exist. I don't think it's the ultimate, fully realized experience and expression of human potential. But, there's a place for everything, and obviously, like, calling this out and having an emotional response, a fucking human response, and holding them accountable and all the things to happen. But I think that it really is an opportunity for us to kind of like take a breath, take a beat, and be like, whoa, if any human being is capable of that, let alone groups of them together, then I technically am capable of that. I'm of that. And what does this call us to reflect on in ourselves? Where is our own version of this? Where are we complicit? And how are we able to function in that way? Like, perhaps just chalking it up, which I do think that there's forces at work that I don't fully understand yet that are like evil, like, because I don't think this is just born of human beings. But maybe just focusing on that is not like only missing the point, but missing the opportunity to gather greater insight and information into humanity, ourselves, of like, whoa, dude, like, it's crazy that human beings can kind of get behind this. And, whether or not they're even like, every single person is actively engaging in like the most sort of like depraved parts of it, the ability to, even if like just tangentially, like accept it and know parts and hold and keep yourself sort of ignorant with a sort of awareness of other stuff, but being like, I don't really want to think about it. Like, I think that's how people fuck with like, factory farming. It's like, no, I kind of know, but I also don't want to know. Or like when people are like trying to tell us about what it takes to mine some part of what's in the iPhone, that like cobalt or something I don't understand. And like how fucked the process and conditions of like the human experience of those that are doing like there's just so much that we are like deeply hypocritical, or like that we would it's like find fascinating in ourselves. Like, I cannot believe we're able to ignore these things and participate in them. Because, you know, people are like, yeah, I try to, you know, do things ethically or ethically, whatever. But it's like, you know, being a weekend vegetarian. Like, it's just, it's not the way you move in this life. Like, it's not everything, right? And so we do for conveniences because we hide within the group think and what everyone else is doing. And so we just, where we're able to live and move morally compromised. And I think that is almost the like, I want to say like the only way to function in the modern world right now, but kind of, right? Like, it's like you look around everything, it's all pretty basically fucked. Everything is kind of fucked. Like, all the things that are made, that, you know, anyway. It's almost like just as like the Holocaust and Nazis, and so like everything I was saying before about like these regular ass Germans like being able to move in this way and commit these atrocities, like that it's the craziest example. It's the most like extreme version. Like, I think that that's where this is lying for me, of like how this can be like studied and explored to humanity's benefit, of like, yo, what? Like, what were people capable of doing or fucking being complicit to or accepting, and like not calling out, like for personal interests, or, I mean, it all is personal interest, whether you're trying to further your career or you're trying to like preserve or save your public image. Like, dude, if you end up getting compromised in some way that isn't even your fucking fault, like maybe they drugged you and then there's a picture of you with, I mean, I don't even want to say this crassly, but like a child to some whatever, and like that sucks. That sucks for you that happened, and try to tell the whole story, but let that fucking picture be released and have your public image be fucked. To prioritize saving your self, your image, your over being a part of saving these fucking kids and dismantling is like, I don't know what, I can't imagine what could be presented to me, like, again, just coming from like the blackmail angle, that I'd be like, all right, that fucking sucks that it really looks like I did a thing, or maybe I did do a thing, but I was like, whatever, but I'm gonna do the right thing now, like, but I'm gonna take it on the chin, or like whatever, fall on the sword to fucking whistle blow this, stop this, and that's just for the blackmail-y aspect of it all. Because, like, that's what I have to believe, like, some of these politicians, people who become compromised, I'm like, or even celebrities, I'm like, some of you don't seem, like, inherently fucking evil, so I have to imagine there's a blackmail aspect, but then I'm just like, okay, maybe you're not inherently evil, but you're really fucking fucked and, like, deeply flawed and, like, morally compromised, because it doesn't matter what you might get perceived as or caught in or whatever could come out, because saving fucking children overrides it. Period. And that's not even dealing with the people that maybe are willing to, fucking bend their morals and engage in shit and whatever because it like fucking benefits and furthers their career or whatever, which is like inexcusably deplorable. I don't know, maybe there's just like people that I've seen that, not that I know any of them, but like I'm trying to give the benefit of the doubt because I'm just like, nah, fucking you too. No way. Like, no way, no way. But, I mean, it doesn't matter which they are. Like, it doesn't matter if the picture taken of you is you in some act with a fucking kid. And like the benefit of the doubt ultimate situation is like, you were fucking drugged or it was staged to look a certain way or whatever. But the thing they have over you is like the releasing of the image or the public believing that. That fucking sucks. But to not choose to stop that thing, like, you're so fucking